Chapter 1. Hey Wild Hearts. What happens when sworn enemies can't keep their claws, or their eyes, off each other? Kira Ashwood stood at the edge of the disputed borderlands, moonlight turning her auburn hair to flame, and knew tonight would end in blood. It always did when the Ravenclaws crossed the river. The scent hit her first, pine and steel, wrapped in arrogance. Dominic Ravenclaw emerged from the tree line like a predator claiming new territory, 6 wolves at his back, all of them radiating barely contained violence. His eyes, silver in the moonlight, locked onto hers with an intensity that made her wolf bristle and something else entirely coil low in her stomach. She crushed that traitorous feeling instantly. "You're on Ashwood land, Ravenclaw." Kira's voice cut through the night, sharp as a blade. Her own pack flanked her, outnumbered but unbowed. "Turn around, or we settle this the old way." Dominic's laugh was dark silk and razors. "Your land? My grandfather's blood soaked this soil long before your father murdered him on it." He moved closer, each step deliberate, and she could see the old scar cutting through his left eyebrow. The one rumor said he'd gotten the night her father died. But then, the Ashwoods were always good at rewriting history. Heat flared in her chest, rage or something more dangerous, she couldn't tell. "My father was a hero who defended our pack from Ravenclaw aggression. Your grandfather was a warmonger who—" "Careful." Dominic closed the distance between them in 3 strides, and suddenly he was there, towering over her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his skin. His scent wrapped around her like a physical thing, making her wolf whine in confusion. "Speak ill of my bloodline again, and alpha or not, I'll teach you respect." Kira's claws extended involuntarily. "Try it. I've been waiting 10 years to tear out a Ravenclaw throat." For a heartbeat, they stood frozen, the air between them crackling with tension that had nothing to do with pack politics. His eyes dropped to her mouth, just for a second, and she saw something flicker there. Surprise, maybe, or hunger, before his expression shuddered back to cold contempt. "This land belongs to my pack," he said, voice dropping to a growl that vibrated through her bones. "We're expanding our territory, and you're in the way. Over my dead body. That can be arranged." The clearing erupted. Wolves shifted in explosions of fur and fang, pack members lunging at pack members, and Kira found herself moving on pure instinct. She shifted mid-leap, her wolf form sleek and deadly, auburn coat gleaming as she crashed into Dominic's beta. But even as she fought, she tracked him. Dominic, still in human form, moved through the chaos like death itself, taking down 2 of her strongest warriors with brutal efficiency. He fought like he did everything else, with absolute confidence and zero mercy. Their eyes met across the battlefield. He smiled slow and predatory and mouthed a single word: "Coward." Her wolf snarled in fury. Kira shifted back, grabbed a fallen branch, and vaulted across 3 struggling wolves to land directly in Dominic's path. "You want to fight, Alpha?" She spun the makeshift weapon, feeling her pack's energy surge at her challenge. "Let's dance." He shifted then, and sweet mercy, his wolf was magnificent. Massive and dark as midnight, with those same silver eyes that seemed to see straight through her. They circled each other, hackles raised, both alphas weighing the cost of this fight. A howl split the night. Not from either pack. This was something else, something wrong. The scent hit a second later. Rot and madness and hunger. Rogue wolves, at least 20 of them, poured into the clearing like a plague. Kira's pack scattered, breaking formation. Dominic's wolves did the same, the border skirmish forgotten in the face of this new threat. Rogues were universally despised, wolves who'd lost their humanity, given in fully to the beast, and became mindless killing machines. "Ashwood." Dominic's voice cut through her combat focus. A massive rogue had broken through her line, heading straight for her youngest wolves. She lunged, but Dominic was faster, his dark form slamming into the rogue with enough force to shake the ground. For 3 minutes, they fought side by side. His strength covered her speed. Her agility compensated for his blind spots. They moved like they'd been trained together, like they were pack, and some treacherous part of her brain whispered that it felt right. When the last rogue fled into the darkness, they stood in the center of carnage, both bleeding, both breathing hard. Their packs stared in shocked silence. Kira shifted back to human form, not caring about her nakedness. Nudity was nothing in wolf culture. "Why did you?" "Don't." Dominic shifted as well, and she absolutely did not notice the defined muscle of his torso or the way moonlight carved shadows across his collarbone. Don't thank me, and don't think this changes anything. My pack was in danger. That's the only reason I helped. I didn't need your help. You're welcome anyway. He turned to leave, then paused, looking back over his shoulder. Blood trickled from a cut on his jaw, and his silver eyes held something she couldn't quite read. The rogues are getting bolder. 20 in one pack is unheard of. Something's wrong. Ravenclaw problems aren't my concern. They'll be everyone's concern soon enough. He gestured to his pack, and they melted back into the forest. But at the tree line, he stopped again. Same time next week, Ashwood? Unless you're scared. Her wolf practically howled at the challenge. I'll be here. And next time, I won't hesitate. Neither will I. He disappeared into shadow, and Kira was left standing in the moonlight, her pack gathering around her with worried questions she couldn't answer. Because the most terrifying thing about tonight wasn't the rogues or the border dispute. It was the way her skin still burned everywhere Dominic Ravenclaw had touched her. Chapter 2. The council meeting was supposed to be neutral territory. The old stone hall sat exactly on the border between Ashwood and Ravenclaw lands, maintained by the Elder Council. Ancient wolves who'd seen enough bloodshed to broker whatever fragile peace existed between packs. Kira hated it here. She especially hated that Dominic Ravenclaw sat directly across from her, looking infuriatingly composed in a black shirt that did criminal things to his physique. Not that she was looking. The rogue situation has escalated, Elder Moira announced, her weathered face grave. In the past month, we've had reports of coordinated attacks across 4 territories. These aren't random rogues, someone's organizing them. Organizing rogues is impossible, Dominic said, his voice carrying that aristocratic edge that made Kira want to punch him. They're mindless beasts. And yet, Elder Marcus slid a map across the table. Red marks dotted the parchment like a disease. The attacks follow a pattern. They're testing defenses, probing for weaknesses. This is strategy. Kira studied the map, her tactical mind already working. The attacks formed a rough circle, and right in the center. Our territories, she breathed. Her eyes snapped to Dominic's, and she saw her own realization reflected there. They're surrounding us. Which is why, Elder Moira continued, the council is invoking the ancient compact. Pax Ashwood and Ravenclaw will form a temporary alliance to investigate and eliminate this threat. The silence was deafening. Absolutely not. Kira shot to her feet. I won't work with the pack that murdered my father. Dominic stood as well, his chair scraping against stone. And I won't ally with liars and territory thieves. My grandfather was a tyrant who got what he deserved. Your father was a backstabbing coward who... Enough! Elder Moira's power filled the room, pressing down on them both until Kira's knees nearly buckled. Ancient alphas didn't lose their strength with age. They refined it into something terrifying. You will work together, or the council will withdraw protection from both your packs. You'll face the rogues alone, and when you fall, we'll give your lands to wolves who understand duty over pride. Kira's wolf howled in protest, but she forced herself to breathe. To think. Her pack numbered 43 wolves, including pups. Dominic's was slightly larger at 51. Against coordinated rogue attacks, divided, they'd be slaughtered. She looked at Dominic and saw the same cold calculation in his eyes. Fine, she bit out. Temporary alliance. For the rogue threat only. Agreed. Dominic's jaw was tight enough to shatter steel. But the second this is over, we go back to being enemies. Trust me, I'm counting the days. Elder Marcus actually smiled. Excellent. You'll start with a joint patrol tonight. The most recent attack was in the Whispering Woods. Neutral ground between your territories. Work together to track the rogues back to their nest. Tonight, Kira's voice pitched higher than she'd have liked. Problem, Alpha Ashwood? Dominic's tone dripped with false concern. Afraid to spend a few hours in my company? Afraid I'll murder you and make it look like a rogue attack, she shot back sweetly. His laugh was sharp and genuine. You could try. Might be fun to watch. 2 hours later, Kira regretted every life choice that had led to this moment. They moved through the Whispering Woods in tense silence, tracking the rogues sent deeper into territory neither pack regularly patrolled. Dominic moved like a shadow, his footsteps soundless, and she hated that her wolf approved of his hunting skills. You're favoring your left side, he said suddenly, not looking at her. I'm fine. You took a rogue's claws to the ribs last week. I can smell blood. Kira's hand instinctively went to her side, where bandages hid beneath her shirt. The wound had reopened during training this morning. Since when do you care? I don't. He stopped, turning to face her with an expression she couldn't read. But if you collapse out here, I'm not carrying you back. You're dead weight. Charming as always, Ravenclaw. I wasn't trying to charm you, Ashwood. If I wanted to do that. He stepped closer, and that damned scent of his wrapped around her again. You'd know it. Her heart did something complicated and annoying. Is that supposed to be threatening or flirting? Because you're terrible at both. Maybe you're just not paying attention. Maybe you're not as impressive as you think you are. They stood there, glaring at each other, and Kira realized with horror that she was enjoying this. The verbal sparring, the challenge in his eyes, the way he didn't back down or treat her like delicate glass. She'd been alpha since she was 19. Most wolves either feared her or deferred to her. Dominic Ravenclaw did neither. The trail splits here, he said finally, breaking the moment. North or east? Kira crouched, examining the disturbed earth. North is rockier terrain. Harder to track, but better for an ambush. East leads to the old mining caves. Perfect for a nest. So we split up, and let you take all the glory? Absolutely not. She stood, brushing dirt from her hands. East. Together. His lips twitched. Afraid I'll get lost without you? Afraid you'll do something stupid, and I'll get blamed for it. They continued east, and gradually, the banter gave way to focused silence. The rogue scent grew stronger, wrought in madness, thick enough to taste. Kira's wolf paced anxiously beneath her skin. Something's wrong, Dominic murmured. This many rogues should be louder, more chaotic. He was right. The forest was too quiet. The attack came from above. Rogues dropped from the trees like nightmares, 6 of them, all claws and gnashing teeth. Kira shifted mid-dodge, her wolf form barely avoiding a strike that would have opened her throat. She heard Dominic's growl behind her, felt the impact as he slammed into a rogue that had been targeting her blind spot. They fought in desperate synchronization. When she drove a rogue toward him, he was there to finish it. When he was swarmed, she tore through them to give him breathing room. It was brutal and efficient, and absolutely should not feel this natural. The last rogue fled, limping into the darkness. Kira shifted back, panting. Did you see that? They retreated. Rogues don't retreat, they fight until they die. Someone's controlling them. Dominic was bleeding from a dozen wounds, his chest heaving. Training them. But who would? Kira's words cut off as pain exploded in her side. She looked down to see blood blooming across her shirt. The wound from last week had torn completely open. The world tilted. Strong arms caught her before she hit the ground. Dominic's face swam into focus, those silver eyes wide with something that looked almost like fear. You stubborn, infuriating. He pressed his hand against her side, trying to staunch the bleeding. Why didn't you tell me it was this bad? Didn't want your pity, she managed through gritted teeth. You think I pity you? His laugh was harsh. You're the most aggravating wolf I've ever met. You're arrogant, reckless, and you have absolutely no sense of self-preservation. Sounds like someone I know. Shut up and shift. Your healing will be faster in wolf form. Can't. Too weak. He cursed in a language she didn't recognize. Then, before she could protest, he bit his own wrist and pressed it to her lips. Drink. Alpha blood will accelerate your healing. Kira's eyes widened. Sharing blood was intimate, reserved for pack or mates. I can't. You're bleeding out, and I'm not explaining to the council how I let you die on a joint patrol. Drink, Ashwood. That's an order. Maybe it was the blood loss making her delirious, but the idea of defying him seemed exhausting. She drank, and his blood was fire and electricity, power surging through her veins. Her wolf responded immediately, the healing process accelerating until the wound began to close. When she pulled back, Dominic was watching her with an intensity that made her shiver. Thank you, she whispered. Don't. His voice was rough. And don't tell anyone. I have a reputation to maintain. What, of being a heartless bastard? Exactly. But he was still holding her, his arm around her waist, and neither of them seemed inclined to move. A howl echoed through the forest, her beta calling for her. Reality crashed back. Kira pulled away, immediately missing his warmth and hating herself for it. My pack's looking for me. Mine too. Dominic stood, offering his hand. She took it, letting him pull her to her feet. Tomorrow night. We continue the investigation. Tomorrow night, she agreed. They separated at the border, each returning to their own territory, their own packs. But as Kira walked back to the Ashwood compound, She could still taste his blood on her tongue, could still feel the phantom warmth of his arms. This alliance was going to be far more dangerous than any rogue threat. Chapter 3. Kira's beta, Marcus, was waiting at the compound gates, his expression tight with worry. At 28, he'd been her father's most trusted warrior and had served as her advisor since she'd become alpha. Right now, he looked like he wanted to lock her in a tower. "You drank Ravenclaw blood," he said flatly. She'd known he'd smell it on her. "It was a tactical decision. I was injured. You shared blood with our sworn enemy." Marcus's voice dropped to a growl. "Do you know what the pack will think? What they'll say? That their alpha did what was necessary to survive and continue the investigation." Kira pushed past him, heading toward the main lodge. Her side still ached, but Dominic's blood had indeed accelerated the healing. She'd be fully recovered by morning. "We have bigger problems than pack gossip." She filled him in on the rogue attack as they walked. The coordination, the retreat, the disturbing implications of someone controlling them. Marcus's frown deepened. If someone's building a rogue army, this is bigger than a territory dispute. This is war, which is why the alliance stands. For now, Kira entered her office, a spacious room lined with books and pack histories. Her father's sword still hung above the fireplace, the one he'd carried the night he died. "But I need you to dig into something for me." "Name it." "The night my father died. Get me everything, patrol logs, witness statements, anything the Ravenclaws said during the investigation." She met Marcus's eyes. "Something about Dominic's reaction tonight. When I was hurt. It didn't fit." "You think he knows something?" "I think everyone's been so busy hating each other that nobody's asked the right questions." Kira pulled out a map, marking the locations of tonight's attack. 10 years of bad blood, and nobody knows exactly what happened that night. Just that both alphas died and everyone blamed the other side. Marcus studied her carefully. "You're not developing sympathies for him, are you? For Dominic Ravenclaw? Please." She forced a laugh that sounded hollow even to her own ears. "He's arrogant, condescending, and I'm pretty sure he'd enjoy watching me fail. But he's also smart, and right now we need to be smarter. Someone's playing a bigger game, and I want to know who." After Marcus left, Kira stood alone in her office, staring at her father's sword. She'd been 19 when they'd brought his body home, torn apart by what the investigators said were rogue claws. But her father had been the strongest alpha in 3 generations. The idea that rogues had taken him down never quite made sense. Unless they weren't just rogues. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. North Clearing. Midnight. Come alone. D. She should ignore it. Should tell Marcus, bring backup, follow protocol. Instead, she found herself slipping out of the compound 2 hours later, moving through the forest like a ghost. Dominic was already there, leaning against an old oak tree, moonlight turning his dark hair silver. He'd cleaned up since their fight, the wounds healed, fresh clothes that somehow made him look even more dangerous. "You actually came," he said, sounding surprised. "You said come alone. That usually means either a trap or information." Kira stopped a safe distance away, hand near the silver knife at her belt. "Which is it?" "Information. Maybe both." He pushed off the tree, pulling a worn folder from his jacket. "I did some digging after tonight. Found this in my grandfather's private study, the one my father sealed after his death." Kira took the folder, opening it carefully. Inside were photos, dates, names. Her breath caught. "These are surveillance photos. Of my father." She looked up sharply. "Your grandfather was spying on our pack for 6 months before he died." Dominic moved closer, pointing to specific images. "Look at the dates. He was tracking your father's movements, his patrol patterns. Almost like he was planning an attack," Kira finished, her stomach sinking. "Everyone said my father started the fight that night. But if your grandfather was stalking him, maybe it was self-defense." Dominic's voice was carefully neutral. "Or maybe they were both planning something. But look at this." He flipped to the last page, a handwritten note in elegant script. "The artifact is real. Ashwood knows where it is. Must act before the full moon. Cannot let him claim the power. R. Are for Ravenclaw," Kira said softly. "What artifact?" "I don't know. I was hoping you would." Dominic's silver eyes searched hers. "Your father never mentioned anything? Some kind of supernatural object or weapon?" Kira's mind raced through childhood memories. Her father's late-night meetings, the way he'd spent hours in his study those last few months, the unusual number of calls from other packs. There were rumors. Old pack legends about an alpha stone, supposed to amplify a wolf's power, let them control other shifters. But I always thought it was just a story. What if it wasn't? Dominic's voice was intense now. What if both our grandfathers knew about this stone, and they killed each other fighting over it? And now someone else is looking for it. The pieces clicked together in Kira's mind. The rogue attacks aren't random. They're searching for something. Testing defenses, yes, but also. Dominic pulled out his own map, matching hers. Look where they've hit. Old pack lands, ancient territories. They're excavating, looking for the stone. Kira felt cold despite the warm night. If someone gets their hands on something that can control shifters, every pack becomes their army. Dominic's jaw tightened. We need to find it first. We? Kira raised an eyebrow. Last I checked, we were enemies doing the bare minimum required by the council. Last you checked, we weren't facing a threat that could enslave every wolf in the region. He stepped closer, and there was that pull again, that magnetic draw that made her wolf purr in approval. I know you don't trust me, Ashwood. The feeling's mutual. But I trust you to be smart enough to see the real threat here. And if we find this stone, what then? Do we split it down the middle, or do we go back to fighting over it like our fathers did? I guess that depends. His voice dropped, intimate in the darkness. Can you set aside a decade of hate long enough to save everyone? Can you? They stood there, the weight of history pressing down on them, the future uncertain. Finally, Dominic extended his hand. Temporary alliance, he said. We find the stone, neutralize the rogue threat, figure out who's behind this. After that, his smile was sharp. After that, you're welcome to go back to hating me. Kira looked at his offered hand, remembering every insult, every border dispute, every reason she had to distrust him. Then she thought about her pack. The pups who didn't deserve to pay for old feuds. The wolves who'd trusted her to lead them into a better future. She took his hand. The contact sent electricity through her entire body, and from the way Dominic's eyes widened, he felt it too. For a heartbeat, neither moved. Then Kira yanked her hand back like she'd been burned. Strictly business, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. Strictly business, he agreed. But as she walked away, she heard him call out softly. Kira? She stopped, shocked. He'd never used her first name before. That wound tonight. How bad was it really? She looked back over her shoulder. Bad enough that your blood saved my life. Then we're even. You kept rogues off my back last week. He paused. And Kira? Next time you're injured, tell me. I can't watch your back if you're bleeding out and playing tough. Something warm unfurled in her chest. Same goes for you, Dominic. His name felt strange on her tongue. Intimate, personal. From the way his expression softened, he noticed. Tomorrow night, he said. My territory this time. There's a historian in my pack who might know more about the Alpha Stone. We'll start there. Tomorrow night, she confirmed. As she made her way back through the forest, Kira touched the place where his hand had held hers, where his blood still sang in her veins. Her father had always taught her that Ravenclaws were the enemy, liars, murderers, wolves who couldn't be trusted. But tonight, Dominic Ravenclaw had given her classified information that implicated his own grandfather, had showed her vulnerability, had asked her to be honest about her injuries because he was worried. What if everything she'd been taught was wrong? The question haunted her all the way home. Chapter 4. Entering Ravenclaw territory felt like walking into a lion's den. Kira had crossed these borders exactly twice in her life. Once for a council meeting, once for her father's funeral when tradition demanded both packs pay respects to their fallen alphas. Neither experience had been pleasant. Tonight, Dominic waited at the border himself, flanked by 2 guards who watched her with barely concealed hostility. Stand down, Dominic ordered his wolves. She's here on my invitation. Alpha with respect, one guard said, a scarred woman who looked like she ate nails for breakfast, bringing an Ashwood into our compound. Is my decision to make. Dominic's tone left no room for argument. Dismissed. The guards retreated, but their glares promised that Kira's presence wouldn't be forgotten. She fell into step beside Dominic, hyper-aware of enemy wolves tracking her every movement. Your pack loves me already, she said dryly. Can you blame them? Your father led the raid that killed 3 of our elders. Dominic's voice was matter of fact, but there was an edge there. Your second-in-command took out my best tracker. We've been bleeding for a decade because of Ashwood aggression. Kira's temper flared. Ashwood aggression? You started that border war by. She caught herself, remembering the folder, the surveillance photos. Or did we? Maybe neither of us knows who really threw the first stone. Maybe. He glanced at her sideways. Strange, isn't it? We've spent 10 years certain of our righteousness, and now… He trailed off. Now everything's complicated, she finished. The Ravenclaw compound was impressive. Larger than hers, built from dark stone that seemed to absorb moonlight. Wolves stopped and stared as Dominic led her through the courtyard, their shock palpable. An Ashwood alpha, walking freely through their home. Some looked angry. Others looked intrigued. A few younger wolves looked almost hopeful. This way. Dominic guided her to a building set apart from the others, practically a library. Evan's our pack historian. He's been researching the Alpha Stone since I brought him the folder. Inside, surrounded by towers of books and scrolls, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses looked up. His eyes widened when he saw Kira. Alpha Ashwood. This is unexpected. Evan stood quickly, knocking over a stack of papers. I've read about you. Your tactical victory at the Silvercrest skirmish was brilliant. The way you used the terrain too. He caught Dominic's amused expression and flushed. Sorry. I study all pack conflicts. Academic interest. Despite herself, Kira smiled. Thank you, Evan. What have you learned about the Alpha Stone? The historian's entire demeanor changed, passion lighting his features. It's real. Not just legend. There are documented references going back 3 centuries. He spread a map across the table, marked with symbols and notes. The stone was created by the first wolves, the original shifters who settled this region. It's said to amplify an alpha's power exponentially, allowing them to command any wolf, override pack bonds, even force shifts. That's… Kira's throat went dry. That's absolute power. Absolute corruption, Dominic added grimly. No one should have that kind of control. The first wolves thought so too, Evan continued. They split the stone into 3 pieces and hid them separately, each protected by trials and guardians. The thinking was that only a truly worthy alpha, one with strength, wisdom, and a pure heart, could reunite the pieces. Or, Kira said slowly, someone could gather the pieces and use that power for conquest. Exactly. Evan pointed to marks on the map. I've been tracking the rogue attacks against historical records. 2 of the locations match old First Wolf sites. I think someone already has 2 pieces. The room went silent. Where's the third? Dominic's voice was sharp with urgency. Evan's finger landed on a spot that made Kira's blood run cold. The Whispering Caves. Right on the border between Ashwood and Ravenclaw territory, she finished. The one place both our packs avoid because of the treaty violations. It's why the piece has stayed hidden for centuries, Evan explained. No one could claim it without starting a war. Dominic met Kira's eyes. We need to get there first. Together. Agreed. When? Tomorrow night. It'll take both of us to navigate the trials. From what I've read, they require 2 alphas working in perfect unity. He smiled, sharp and challenging. Think you can manage to not stab me for a few hours? I make no promises. But she was smiling too, and it felt dangerously genuine. A commotion outside interrupted them. Shouting, the sound of a fight. Dominic was moving instantly, Kira right behind him. They burst into the courtyard to find 2 wolves circling each other. Both shifted halfway, claws extended. Traitor! One of them snarled at Dominic. You bring our father's murderer into our home. Enough coal. Dominic's alpha command rolled through the compound, pressing down until the fighting wolves shifted back to human, heads bowed in submission. I know this is difficult, but we face a threat bigger than our feud. No threat is bigger than justice. Cole looked young, maybe 20, with Dominic's same silver eyes. His brother, Kira realized. Her pack killed our grandfather. Your grandfather. And you're what? Making allies with them. Her pack didn't kill anyone, Dominic said quietly. I did my research. Read the reports. Our grandfather was planning an attack. Her father defended his pack. It was a fair fight between alphas. The crowd murmured. This was clearly news to them. You're lying to protect her. I'm telling you the truth to protect us all. Dominic's voice hardened. Someone is building an army of rogues. Someone has been searching for a weapon that could enslave every wolf in this region. And that someone is counting on us being too busy hating the Ashwoods to notice. So you can either grow up and see the bigger picture, or you can challenge me for alpha right now. Cole looked torn, angry, but young enough that the fight drained out of him. He dropped his gaze. I miss him. Our grandfather. I know. Dominic's expression softened. I miss him too. But he wasn't perfect, and neither was Alpha Ashwood. They made choices that led to tragedy. We can honor their memory by being smarter. Kira's chest tightened. She'd never thought about Ravenclaw loss before. Their grief, their pain. In her mind, they'd always been the enemy, two-dimensional villains who deserved what they got. But Cole's raw hurt was achingly familiar. She'd felt the same standing over her father's grave. I lost my father that night too, she said quietly, drawing every eye. I was 19. He was my hero, my teacher, my alpha. And I spent 10 years hating your pack for taking him from me. She looked at Cole directly. But maybe we've all been hating the wrong enemy. Maybe we should be asking who benefits from keeping us divided. The young wolf studied her, something shifting in his expression. Finally, he nodded once and retreated into the crowd. Dominic touched her elbow lightly. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. If we're going to work together, your pack needs to not murder me in my sleep. She tried for levity, but her voice came out shaky. Admitting that her father might not have been the righteous hero she'd imagined hurt more than she'd expected. Come on. Dominic guided her away from the crowd, toward the compound's edge where shadows offered privacy. You okay? Fine. Liar. He leaned against a wall, watching her with those too perceptive eyes. You just publicly questioned your father's legacy. That's not nothing. Kira wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold. He was everything to me. The idea that he might have. That maybe he wasn't. She couldn't finish. He was probably exactly what you thought, strong, protective, trying to do right by his pack. Dominic's voice was surprisingly gentle. My grandfather too. But good people make mistakes, especially when they're scared. And I think they were both terrified of what the Alpha Stone could do in the wrong hands. So they killed each other fighting over it, and now history's repeating. Kira laughed bitterly. We're brilliant as a species. Speak for yourself. I'm exceptionally brilliant. His teasing tone made her look up. But seriously, Kira, we're not our fathers. We get to make different choices. Do we? Everyone's watching, waiting for us to fail. Waiting for proof that Ashwoods and Ravenclaws can never work together. Then let's prove them wrong. He pushed off the wall, moving closer. Too close. Tomorrow night, we go to the Whispering Caves. We beat whatever trials are there. We secure the third piece before whoever's behind this gets it. And then we figure out how to destroy all three pieces so no one can ever abuse that power. He tilted his head, studying her. Unless you want it for yourself? Do you? Not even slightly. That kind of power corrupts absolutely. I like my free will. His smile turned wicked. And I especially like wolves who challenge me instead of blindly obeying. Where's the fun otherwise? Kira's heart did that complicated thing again. Is that your way of saying you respect me? It's my way of saying you're the most aggravating, stubborn, infuriating wolf I've ever met. He paused. And possibly the only one I'd trust at my back in a real fight. Dominic Ravenclaw, was that almost a compliment? Don't let it go to your head, Ashwood. But they were both smiling now, the air between them charged with something that had nothing to do with pack politics. Kira became acutely aware of the space between them, or lack thereof, of how good he smelled, pine and steel and something uniquely him, of the way moonlight caught in his silver eyes. I should go, she said, not moving. Probably wise. He didn't move either. My pack will wonder where I am. Mine already thinks I've lost my mind. Have you? Definitely. He reached up, and for a wild moment she thought he might touch her face. Instead, he plucked a leaf from her hair. You had from earlier, when you shifted. Oh, disappointment curled in her stomach, which was ridiculous. Thanks. Tomorrow night, he said softly. The Whispering Caves. Don't be late. Wouldn't miss it. She forced herself to step back, to break the spell. And Dominic, thank you for defending me to your pack. Thank you for defending my grandfather's memory, even knowing what he did. His expression turned serious. We're going to figure this out, Kira. All of it, the stone, the rogues, what really happened 10 years ago. And maybe what? Maybe we'll prove that some feuds aren't worth keeping. He smiled then, slow and devastating. Now go, before my brother decides to challenge you to an honor duel. Kira left Ravenclaw territory with her thoughts in chaos. She'd gone there expecting answers about the Alpha Stone, and had found something far more dangerous. She was starting to genuinely like Dominic Ravenclaw, and that terrified her more than any rogue army. Chapter 5. The entrance to the Whispering Caves yawned like a hungry mouth, carved into cliff face right where Ashwood and Ravenclaw territories met. Ancient runes covered the stone archway. Warnings, Kira suspected, though the language was too old for her to read. Dominic arrived precisely at midnight, armed and ready. Evan sent these. He handed her a silver-bladed dagger. Iron disrupts supernatural bonds. If the trials include guardian spirits, this will help. Cheerful thought. Kira secured the blade at her hip, next to her own weapons. Did he mention what kind of trials we're facing? Tests of strength, cunning, and unity. The first wolves believed only truly compatible alphas should wield the stone's power. He glanced at her sideways. So, we're probably doomed. Your confidence is inspiring. I aim to please. They entered the cave together, and immediately the temperature dropped 20 degrees. Their breath misted in the darkness, and the only light came from phosphorescent moss growing along the walls in spiraling patterns. The deeper they went, the more the air itself seemed to whisper. Hence the name. Ashwood, Ravenclaw, blood and betrayal. Kira shivered. Tell me you hear that too. Unfortunately, Dominic moved closer, his shoulder brushing hers. Ancient spirits, probably. The caves remember everything that happened here. The tunnel opened into a massive chamber, and in the center stood a stone altar. On it sat 3 empty indentations, clearly meant to hold the stone's pieces. But blocking their path was a creature Kira had only seen in pack histories, a guardian wolf. It was massive, twice the size of any shifter, with fur that seemed woven from shadow and eyes that glowed like captured stars. Ancient magic radiated from it in waves. First trial, Dominic breathed. Combat. The guardian spoke, its voice echoing from everywhere at once. 2 enter. 2 must fight as 1. Fail, and you forfeit your lives. Begin. It lunged. Kira dove left, Dominic right. The guardian's claws struck stone where they'd been standing, leaving deep gouges. They'd sparred with rogues, fought trained warriors. But this was different. This was a creature of pure magic, faster than anything natural. It's reading our movements. Kira shouted as she barely dodged another strike. Anticipating us. Then we stopped thinking. Dominic shifted mid-leap, his massive dark wolf form crashing into the guardian's side. He caught Kira's eyes across the chamber, and somehow she understood. Instinct. They needed to stop treating this like a tactical exercise and trust their wolves. She shifted, her auburn wolf leaping into the fray. And suddenly it was like the border fight all over again. That strange synchronization where his strength covered her speed, her agility compensated for his blind spots. They moved like they'd been hunting together for years, pack bonds forming in real time despite every reason they shouldn't. When Dominic lunged high, Kira went low. When she feinted left, he followed through on the right. The guardian couldn't track them both, couldn't predict movements that were pure instinct and perfect trust. Finally, together, they brought the creature down. It dissolved into mist and light, and the voice echoed once more. First trial complete. Strength through unity. Both shifted back to human form, breathing hard. Kira's shoulder burned where the guardian's claws had caught her. Dominic's side bled sluggishly. That was... She couldn't find words. Terrifying? Exhilarating. He grinned, wild and alive in a way she'd never seen. Admit it, Ashwood. We make a good team. Don't let it go to your head. But she was grinning too, adrenaline singing through her veins. They'd done it. Together. And it had felt right in a way that scared her. The chamber shifted. Walls rearranged themselves, and a new path opened, leading deeper. At the end stood 2 doors. Second trial, Dominic guessed. Ready. Always. They approached the doors. One marked with the Ashwood crest, one with Ravenclaws. The voice returned. Choose. 1 door leads to truth, 1 to certain death. You may open 1 door only. Decide together or fail separately. Kira studied both doors carefully. It's a test of trust. We each want to open our own family's door, but only one is safe. And we have to agree on which one. Dominic crossed his arms, thinking. What do you think? Honestly, I think it's a trick. She traced the Ashwood crest, something nagging at her mind. The trials are about unity, right? Strength through cooperation. So why would the second trial force us to choose one pack over another? Unless, Dominic's eyes lit up. Unless the right answer is to reject the choice entirely. They looked at each other, the same wild idea clearly occurring to them both. Together, Kira said. On three. Dominic moved to stand beside her between both doors. 1, 2, 3. They struck simultaneously. Kira's hand hitting the Ravenclaw door, Dominic's hitting the Ashwood crest. The doors glowed, magic crackling through the air, and for a heart-stopping moment Kira thought they'd guessed wrong. Then both doors swung open, revealing the same path forward. The voice almost sounded approving. Second trial complete. Wisdom through trust. Kira let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. We're either brilliant or incredibly lucky. I'm going with brilliant. Dominic started forward, then paused. Kira. Yeah, back there, with the Guardian. When we fought together. He seemed to struggle for words, which was unusual for him. I've led my pack for 7 years. I've fought alongside my strongest warriors. But I've never felt anything like that synchronization. It was like we were pack, she finished softly. I felt it too. Their eyes met, and the air between them crackled with more than just residual magic. There were rules about this. Ancient taboos about alphas from rival packs forming bonds. It weakened pack structure, caused conflicting loyalties, and had led to more than one pack war. But standing in this ancient cave, Kira couldn't bring herself to care about rules written by wolves who were dust. Come on, she said, breaking the moment before it could become something more. One more trial to go. The final chamber was different. No guardian, no doors. Just an altar in the center with a single question carved in stone. What do you sacrifice for power? Around them, the cave's whispers grew louder, taking shape as ghostly images. Kira saw her pack, Marcus, the young wolves, the elders who trusted her leadership. She saw them suffering, attacked by rogues calling her name. It's showing us our fears, Dominic said, his voice strained. She looked over to see him watching similar visions. His brother Cole, his pack, all in danger. The voice spoke. The Alpha Stone grants power to command all wolves. But power demands sacrifice. Will you sacrifice your enemy's pack to save your own? Will you sacrifice your honor for strength? What will you give to claim this power? Kira understood then. The final trial wasn't about strength or wisdom. It was about character. Nothing, she said clearly. I won't sacrifice anything, because I don't want the stone's power. Dominic looked at her sharply, then nodded. Neither do I. The kind of power that requires sacrifice of innocence isn't power worth having. Then why have you come? The voice demanded. To protect it, Kira said. To make sure no one can abuse it. To destroy it if we must. We're not here to claim power, Dominic added. We're here to prevent conquest. Silence. Then slowly the visions faded. Light bloomed from the altar, and a crystal fragment rose from its center. The third piece of the Alpha Stone. Final trial complete, the voice said, and now it sounded almost warm. Integrity through sacrifice. You have proven worthy, not by seeking power, but by rejecting it. The first wolves chose wisely. You are the alphas this age needs. The stone fragment floated toward them, hovering between Kira and Dominic. Take it together, the voice instructed. As you have done all things this night, as equals, as partners, as wolves who put honor above ambition. They reached for it simultaneously, their hands meeting around the crystal. The moment their fingers touched, power surged through them. Not controlling, not corrupting, but connecting. Kira gasped as she felt Dominic's emotions, his thoughts, the fierce protectiveness he felt for his pack, and the unexpected respect he developed for her. And he could feel hers too. She knew it from the way his eyes widened. The connection lasted only seconds, but it changed everything. When the light faded, they stood holding the fragment together, both shaking from the intensity of what they'd shared. Did you, Kira started, feel everything? Yeah, Dominic's voice was rough. Kira, I didn't know. About your father. About how young you were when you became Alpha. About how scared you were. I didn't know about your brother. About the pressure you've carried, trying to be the leader your grandfather was. She looked down at the stone in their joined hands. We've wasted so much time hating each other. Not wasted. We needed that history to appreciate this. He smiled, tentative and real. We should go. Secure this before. A howl echoed through the caves. Not from any pack they knew. Rogues, dozens of them, pouring into the chamber from every entrance. And at their head was a figure in black, face hidden by a hood. Thank you for doing the hard work, a familiar voice said, and Kira's blood went cold as the figure lowered their hood. Marcus, her beta, her father's most trusted friend. No, she whispered. Marcus what? What am I doing? He smiled, and it was nothing like the warm expression she'd known her whole life. Claiming what should have been mine. Your father was weak, Kira. He had the chance to take the stone, to unite all the packs under Ashwood rule, and he refused. So I made sure he wouldn't get in the way. You killed him. Kira's wolf snarled, rage and betrayal burning through her. You murdered your own alpha, and made it look like the Ravenclaws did it. Brilliant, really. I've spent 10 years keeping you focused on the wrong enemy, while I searched for the stone's pieces. Marcus gestured to the rogues. Meet my army. Turns out with enough alpha blood, you can control lesser wolves even without the complete stone. But now, his eyes locked on the fragment. Now I'll have all 3 pieces, and every pack in this region will kneel or die. Dominic moved, putting himself between Marcus and Kira. You'll have to go through us first. Oh, I'm counting on it. Marcus shifted, his wolf form massive and twisted. He'd clearly been using alpha blood to enhance himself, corrupting his own nature. Kill them. Bring me the fragment. The rogues attacked. Chapter 6. There were too many of them. Kira shifted instantly, her auburn wolf lunging at Marcus while Dominic engaged the rogues. But Marcus was faster than she remembered, stronger, his movements enhanced by whatever dark magic he'd been using. His jaws snapped inches from her throat, and only Dominic's intervention, his larger wolf form slamming into Marcus, saved her life. The fragment, Marcus roared, still in wolf form. Secure it. 3 rogues broke from the pack, heading for where the crystal had fallen. Kira intercepted them, her claws finding flesh and bone. But for every rogue she dropped, 2 more took its place. They weren't fighting to kill. They were fighting to overwhelm, to exhaust. Beside her, Dominic was a whirlwind of fangs and fury. But even he couldn't hold off this many enemies forever. Blood matted his dark fur, and she could feel his exhaustion through that strange connection they'd formed. Together, she thought desperately. We survived together or not at all. As if hearing her thought, maybe he had, through their bond. Dominic's eyes met hers. An understanding passed between them. They shifted back to human form simultaneously. Now, Dominic shouted. They'd fought as wolves, using instinct. But strategy, tactics, adaptation, those were human strengths. Back to back, they turned the cave's terrain to their advantage. Narrow passages that funneled the rogues. Loose stones that became projectiles. The phosphorescent moss, scraped free and thrown, glowed bright enough to blind their attackers. Your beta, Dominic panted, blocking a rogue strike, is insane if he thinks we'll just hand over the fragment. He's counting on us killing each other over it. Kira ducked under claws, came up with her silver dagger, and drove it into a rogue's heart. Typical pack rivalry response, each alpha wanting it for themselves. Then let's disappoint him. Dominic grabbed her hand. Can you run? Always. They bolted for the exit tunnel, Marcus's howl of rage echoing behind them. Rogues gave chase, but Kira and Dominic had the advantage of desperation and direction. They burst from the cave into moonlight, hitting the forest at a dead sprint. We need backup, Kira gasped. We need a plan. Dominic countered. Your pack. Will they follow you against Marcus? I don't know. The admission tasted like ashes. He's been my advisor for 7 years. They trust him. Then we go to my territory. Regroup, figure out our next move. Dominic, if we show up together, covered in blood, carrying an alpha stone fragment. I'll handle my pack. His hand tightened on hers. Do you trust me? It was a loaded question. 2 hours ago, she might have said no. But after fighting side by side, after sharing that soul-deep connection in the cave, after seeing him put himself between her and danger again and again. Yes, she said. I trust you. They crashed through the forest, rogues on their heels, until they hit Ravenclaw territory. Dominic let out a summoning howl, the alpha call that no pack member could ignore. Within minutes, wolves poured from the compound, ready for war. Cole skidded to a halt, taking in the scene. His brother bloodied and exhausted, holding hands with Kira Ashwood, rogues emerging from the trees. Defensive positions, Dominic barked. Protect the alpha fragment at all costs. His pack moved like a well-oiled machine, forming a protective circle. The rogues slowed, clearly not expecting organized resistance. But Marcus, still in wolf form, prowled at the edge of the clearing. He shifted back to human, unconcerned with nudity. Alpha Ravenclaw. How unexpected. I thought for certain you'd have killed each other by now. Plans change, Dominic said coldly. Turns out we both prefer justice to power. Justice? Marcus laughed. You speak to me of justice? Your grandfather and her father fought over this stone and died in the process. I'm simply finishing what they started. They fought because you manipulated them. Kira's voice cracked like a whip. You wanted them dead so you could search for the stone without interference. You betrayed your own alpha, Marcus. My father loved you. He trusted you. Something flickered across Marcus's face. Regret, maybe, or the ghost of the man he'd been. Then it was gone, replaced by cold ambition. Your father was soft. He would have protected the stone, hidden it away, let its power go to waste. Marcus gestured to his rogue army. I will unite every pack under one rule. No more petty territorial disputes. No more wasteful feuds. One alpha, one law. Tyranny, Dominic said flatly. You're describing tyranny. I'm describing order. Marcus's eyes locked on the fragment Dominic still held. Give me the stone, and I'll let your packs live. Resist, and I'll take it from your corpses and enslave everyone you love. The Ravenclaw wolves growled in unison, ready to defend their alpha to the death. But Kira could see the calculation in Marcus's eyes. He had the numbers. In a straight fight, he'd win through attrition. They needed a different strategy. Dominic, she said quietly. The connection. The one from the cave. He understood immediately. You think it works both ways? Marcus used alpha blood to control rogues. What if we use it too? But not to control, to free. She looked at him directly. The trials said we were compatible alphas. Worthy. What if together, we're strong enough to break his hold? That's a hell of a theory to bet our lives on. You have a better idea? His smile was sharp and reckless. Not even slightly. Let's try it. They clasped hands over the fragment, and Kira felt that same surge of power, his strength flowing into her, hers into him. Their wolves recognized each other now, responding like pack even without formal bonds. What are you? Marcus started forward, then stopped as realization hit. No, you can't. You're not. Together, Kira said, and power exploded outward from them both. It wasn't like Marcus's control, dark and forced and breaking the mind. This was pack magic, the same force that bound wolves in loyalty and trust and choice. It rolled over the rogues like a cleansing wave, and one by one, they stopped fighting. They looked around, confused, as if waking from a nightmare. Some whimpered. Others simply sat, exhausted and lost. Marcus's hold on them shattered like glass. No, Marcus shifted, lunging for them in a desperate final attack. Cole intercepted him mid-leap. Dominic's younger brother, moving faster than Kira had ever seen, caught Marcus by the throat and slammed him to the ground with enough force to crater the earth. That's for using our grandfather's death to fuel a decade of war, Cole snarled. And this, he pinned Marcus's arms with silver-laced restraints that had appeared from somewhere, is to make sure you never hurt anyone again. The fight drained from Marcus. He lay there, defeated, all his plans crumbling around him. But his eyes, when they met Kira's, held a vindictive satisfaction. You think you've won? He rasped. You've proven exactly what I suspected. Two alphas from enemy packs, working together, can wield more power than anyone imagined. Tell me, Kira, what happens when other packs learn that? How long before someone decides to take that power for themselves? Then we'll be ready, Kira said quietly. Together, Dominic echoed. And we'll teach them the same lesson you learned tonight. Power taken by force never lasts. Only power earned through trust and unity is worth having. Marcus laughed bitterly as Cole hauled him away, but Kira barely heard it. The adrenaline was crashing, exhaustion hitting her like a wall, and suddenly her legs wouldn't hold her. Dominic caught her before she fell. I've got you. My pack, she managed. I need to tell them about Marcus. They need to know. Tomorrow. Tonight, you're staying here. My pack healers will tend your wounds, and you'll rest under my protection. His voice softened. No arguments, Ashwood. Wasn't going to argue, she admitted, leaning into his strength. Too tired. He carried her to the compound. She should have protested, should have insisted on walking, but his arms felt safe in a way nothing had since her father died. Wolves parted for them, staring openly now. Their alpha, carrying an Ashwood, treating her like something precious. The world was changing, whether anyone was ready for it or not. Chapter 7. Kira woke in an unfamiliar bed, sunlight streaming through windows she didn't recognize. Panic flared for half a second before memory returned. The caves, the betrayal, Dominic's compound. She was in Ravenclaw territory, and surprisingly, she was still alive. Someone had cleaned her wounds, wrapped her ribs, and left fresh clothes folded on a chair. The shirt was too large, definitely male, and it smelled like pine and steel and Dominic. Her wolf practically purred at the scent. "Down, girl," she muttered, pushing herself upright. Her body ached in about 40 different places, but the werewolf healing had already started knitting the worst of the damage. A knock at the door. "Kira, you awake?" She'd never heard Dominic sound uncertain before. "Come in." He entered carrying a tray, coffee, eggs, toast. He'd showered, changed into clean clothes, but she could see bandages peeking out from under his shirt collar. "How bad?" she asked, gesturing to his wounds. "I'll live." "You?" "Same." "Is that coffee?" "Fresh from our kitchen." He set the tray on the nightstand, then seemed to realize he was hovering and forced himself to step back. "I didn't know if you took cream or sugar, so I brought both." "Black is fine." She took the mug gratefully, wrapping her hands around the warmth. "This is strange." "What is?" "You. Being nice. Domestic." She smiled over the rim of her cup. "Where's the arrogant alpha who threatened to teach me respect? He learned that you're terrifying when angry and decided to stay on your good side." Dominic sat on the edge of the bed, careful to maintain distance. "How are you really?" "Last night was a nightmare. My beta, the wolf I've trusted for 7 years, has been playing me the entire time. And my father," her voice cracked. "Dominic, Marcus killed him. Murdered his own alpha and pinned it on your pack to keep us fighting. How do I even begin to process that?" "You let yourself feel it. Rage, grief, betrayal, all of it." His hand moved toward hers, then stopped halfway, uncertain. "And you remember you're not alone. You have your pack and—" He trailed off. And you have me. If you want." He met her eyes directly. "I know this is complicated. Our packs have been enemies for a decade. Trust doesn't form overnight. But last night in the caves, Kira, I've never felt anything like that. When our minds touched, when I felt what you've been carrying alone all these years." He shook his head. "You're the strongest wolf I've ever met. And not just physically. The way you've led your pack, protected them, sacrificed for them. That's real strength." Tears burned her eyes. She'd spent 7 years being the strong alpha, never showing weakness, never admitting fear. Hearing someone acknowledge the weight she carried. "I felt it too," she whispered. "Your fear for Cole, your determination to be better than your grandfather. The loneliness of being an alpha, making impossible decisions and carrying the consequences alone." She set down her coffee, finally taking his hand. "We're not alone anymore. Whatever happens next, we face it together." His fingers threaded through hers, the contact sending warmth through her entire body. "Together." I like the sound of that. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment before practical concerns intruded. "I need to tell my pack about Marcus," Kira said. "They deserve the truth. But I don't know how they'll react. Some of them are fiercely loyal to him. Then we tell them together. Both packs. We call a combined council meeting and lay out everything. The Alpha Stone, Marcus's betrayal, the threat we still face." Dominic squeezed her hand. "United front. We show them that Ashwood and Ravenclaw can work together. Some won't accept it. The old guard, the ones who lost family in the feud. Then they can challenge for Alpha." His voice turned hard. "Both of us, if they want. But I won't go back to pointless fighting when we've proven there's another way." Kira studied him. This male wolf who'd been her enemy a week ago and was rapidly becoming something far more dangerous. Ally. Friend. Maybe more, if she was honest about the way her pulse jumped whenever he was near. "My pack will test you," she warned. "Some will see this alliance as betrayal. They'll question my leadership, maybe even my sanity. Let them. I've been tested before." His smile turned wicked. "Besides, if they give you too much trouble, I can always loom menacingly in the background. I'm told I'm quite good at looming." She laughed despite everything. "You are intimidating. I'll give you that. Only to people who don't know me." His thumb traced circles on the back of her hand, probably unconsciously. "You're not scared of me. You never have been. Should I be? Terrified. I'm ruthless, arrogant, and according to my brother, I have a god complex. Funny. My pack says the same about me. Then we're perfect for each other." The words hung in the air, heavier than he'd probably intended. Perfect for each other. As alphas, as allies, as something else neither of them had quite named yet. A crash outside shattered the moment. Shouting, the sound of a scuffle. Dominic was on his feet instantly, Kira right behind him despite her injuries. They burst into the courtyard to find chaos. Ashwood wolves had arrived, at least 20 of them, facing off against the Ravenclaw guard. And at their head was her second beta, Diana, looking furious. "Stand down," Kira commanded, her alpha voice cutting through the noise. Both sides froze. "Diana, what's going on? What's going on?" Diana's eyes blazed. "You disappear for 2 days, Marcus is arrested, and rumor says you're shacking up with the Ravenclaws. So I'm here to bring you home before you completely lose your mind." Several Ashwood wolves nodded in agreement. But Kira also saw uncertainty in their faces. Confusion, worry for their alpha, and yes, anger at the perceived betrayal. "Marcus tried to kill me," Kira said clearly. "He confessed to murdering my father and orchestrating a decade of war between our packs. Alpha Ravenclaw, and I stopped him and prevented him from claiming a weapon that would have enslaved every wolf in the region." Diana's expression flickered. Marcus would never. He did, and he admitted it in front of dozens of witnesses. Kira stepped forward, away from Dominic's protective stance. "I know this is hard to believe. Marcus was pack. He was family. But he betrayed us all, and the proof is irrefutable." "Show us," Diana demanded. "If you have proof, show us." Dominic produced the folder. His grandfather's surveillance photos, Marcus's correspondence, evidence compiled from both territories. Diana read through it, her face growing paler with each page. "Gods," she whispered. All this time we've been fighting the wrong enemy." Kira addressed her entire pack now. "The Ravenclaws didn't kill my father. Marcus did. And he used our rage, our grief, to keep us divided while he searched for power. But the Alliance," one of her warriors protested. "Alpha, you're asking us to trust the pack we've bled against for years. I'm asking you to see the truth. Yes, we've fought. Yes, we've lost pack members. But so have they." She gestured to the Ravenclaw wolves. Cole Ravenclaw lost his grandfather. Dominic lost his family's legacy. We've all paid the price for lies and manipulation. And what happens now? Diana's voice was carefully neutral. "You and Alpha Ravenclaw. What exactly is the nature of this alliance?" It was the question everyone wanted answered. Kira could feel dozens of eyes on her, waiting to see if she'd claim it was just temporary, just strategic. The easy lie that would smooth things over. She looked at Dominic, standing beside her with absolute certainty in his eyes. He'd chosen to stand with her against his own pack's doubts. He'd trusted her with his family's secrets. He'd fought for her, bled for her. And now he was offering her the chance to define what they were becoming. "The truth is, I don't know," Kira said honestly. "A week ago, I would have fought Dominic to the death without hesitation. Now I trust him with my life. I've seen his honor, his strength, his dedication to his pack. And I know, we're stronger together than divided." "She's right," Dominic added. "Last night, we wielded power that should have been impossible. 2 alphas from rival packs, working in perfect unity. That's never happened in recorded history. But it worked because we chose trust over hatred. Because we saw each other as wolves, not just enemies." "So what are you proposing?" Diana asked. "A formal pack alliance? Eventually, maybe." Kira glanced at Dominic, saw him nod. "But first, we need to address the remaining threat. Marcus had 2 pieces of the Alpha Stone. We have the third. We need to destroy all 3 before someone else gets ideas about conquest. And after that," Cole spoke up from the Ravenclaw side. "After the stone is gone and the threat is ended, what happens to the Alliance then?" "That depends on all of you," Dominic said. "Kira and I can order you to accept peace, but that won't make it real. True peace, true alliance has to be chosen by every member of both packs." The 2 groups studied each other. Ashwood and Ravenclaw, separated by years of bloodshed and suspicion. But Kira also saw curiosity in some faces, hope in others. The younger wolves especially seemed intrigued by the idea of ending the feud. "I propose a trial period," Diana said finally. 1 month. We work together to destroy the stone and deal with any remaining rogue threats. We see if this alliance actually works in practice, not just in theory. And at the end of that month, we vote. Both packs, honest assessment. If the majority wants to continue, we formalize the alliance. If not, she shrugged. We go back to our territories and maintain a respectful distance. It was more than fair. Kira looked to her pack, saw nods of agreement. Turned to Dominic, found him already looking at her. 1 month, he said. Trial alliance. What do you say, Alpha Ashwood? She extended her hand. I say let's prove everyone wrong, Alpha Ravenclaw. They shook on it, and this time when their hands met, the spark between them was witnessed by both packs. Whispers ran through the crowd, but Kira didn't care. Let them speculate. Let them wonder. She and Dominic had more important work to do, like destroying a magical artifact and preventing supernatural tyranny. Just another day in the life of Werewolf Alphas. Chapter 8. The combined pack meeting took place on neutral ground, the same clearing where Kira and Dominic had first clashed over border rights. But instead of battle lines, the wolves formed a loose circle, Ashwood and Ravenclaw interspersed, wary but willing. Progress, Kira thought. Small but real. Thank you all for coming, she began, standing beside Dominic at the center of the gathering. I know the last few days have been confusing and frightening. You've been asked to trust your enemies, to question everything you thought you knew. That's not easy. But it's necessary, Dominic continued, because the real enemy was never each other. It was the wolf who manipulated us into fighting while he pursued his own agenda. They laid out everything. Marcus's confession, the Alpha Stone's history, the trials in the Whispering Caves. Evan, the Ravenclaw historian, provided context about the first wolves and why the stone had been hidden. Diana confirmed Marcus's suspicious behavior in the months before his arrest. When they finished, silence fell. Then an older Ashwood wolf, scarred and grizzled, stood. I lost my mate to a Ravenclaw raid 7 years ago, he said, his voice rough with old pain. How do I just forget that? How do I look at them and not see her blood? You don't forget, Dominic said gently. But you remember that the wolf who killed her was following orders based on lies. Your mate died because Marcus wanted us divided. Honor her memory by making sure her death wasn't meaningless. Help us build something better. A Ravenclaw warrior stood next. My brother died on Ashwood land. I swore I'd avenge him. Now you're telling me the whole war was a manipulation. Yes, Kira said simply. And I understand your anger. But your brother died a warrior, believing he was protecting his pack. The best way to honor him is to ensure no one else dies for false reasons. Slowly, painfully, the stories emerged. Loss on both sides, grief that mirrored each other. And gradually, wolves began to see themselves in their former enemies. The same pain, the same loyalty, the same desire to protect family. I propose a memorial, Cole suggested, for everyone we lost in this pointless war. Ashwood and Ravenclaw together, acknowledging all the wolves who died because of Marcus's lies. And a tribunal, Diana added. Let Marcus face justice from both packs. Let our young wolves see that betrayal has consequences, no matter who commits it. The proposals were accepted unanimously. Plans formed, a joint memorial ceremony, a formal trial with representatives from both packs, and structured cooperation for destroying the Alpha Stone. But as the meeting wound down, tension remained. Trust wasn't built in a single conversation. There's one more thing, Dominic said, and Kira heard the edge in his voice. They discussed this privately, knowing it would be controversial. The trials in the Whispering Caves created a bond between Alpha Ashwood and myself. A pack bond, despite us leading separate packs. Shocked murmurs rippled through the crowd. Pack bonds were sacred, unbreakable. They didn't form between rival alphas. Ever. We're not asking permission, Kira clarified. The bond exists whether we want it or not. But we are being transparent about it because you deserve to know. This connection makes us stronger together. It's why we could break Marcus's control over the rogues, why we passed the trials. But it also means our pack's fates are now intertwined in ways we're still figuring out. Does this mean you're forming a super pack? Someone called out. Combining Ashwood and Ravenclaw into one? Not necessarily, Dominic said. We could maintain separate packs but allied. Or we could eventually merge. That decision will be made collectively, not by just the two of us. What about succession? Diana asked, always the practical one. If you two lead together, what happens when one of you dies? Or if you have pups, which pack do they belong to? Those were uncomfortable questions without easy answers. Kira and Dominic exchanged glances. We're making this up as we go, Kira admitted. There's no precedent for this situation. But we're committed to doing it right, to building something that honors both our packs and creates something new. Besides, Dominic added with a slight smile, We're both too stubborn to die anytime soon, and too young to worry about pups. Laughter at that, tension breaking. But Kira didn't miss the thoughtful looks some wolves exchanged, or the way her face heated at the mention of pups. She absolutely was not imagining what children with Dominic's silver eyes and her auburn hair might look like. Absolutely not. After the meeting, they walked the border together, just the two of them for the first time in days. That went better than expected, Dominic said. I was half convinced someone would challenge one of us. The day's not over. But Kira was smiling. Thank you, by the way, for backing me up in there. For not taking over or trying to dominate the conversation. We're equals. Partners. He glanced at her sideways. Though I have to admit, watching you command a room full of hostile wolves was incredibly attractive. Heat flared in her chest. Dominic. I know. We're keeping this professional. Focused on the alliance. He stopped walking, turning to face her. But Kira, at some point we need to talk about this. About us. Because that bond they were asking about, it's not just strategic or magical. When I'm near you, my wolf recognizes you as mate. The word escaped before she could stop it. I know. I feel it too. The word hung between them, heavy with implications. Mate bonds were rare, sacred, and absolutely not something that happened between rival alphas. Except it had. The trials had awakened something neither of them had expected. This complicates everything, Dominic said softly. Everything was already complicated. Fair point. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and cupped her face. His thumb traced her cheekbone, and Kira's entire body lit up at the gentle touch. If we do this, if we acknowledge this bond, there's no going back. Our packs will have to merge eventually. The politics, the logistics, the wolves who'll never accept it. I know. She covered his hand with hers. But pretending it doesn't exist won't make it go away. And I'm tired of pretending. Tired of fighting what feels right just because it's unprecedented. So what do? We take it slow. We don't announce anything until after the stone is destroyed and the trial period is over. We give our packs time to adjust to the alliance before hitting them with this. She stepped closer, drawn by a pull she couldn't resist. But privately, between us, we stop pretending. I can work with that. His other hand found her waist, and suddenly they were much too close for just allies. Though for the record, I stopped pretending the night you drank my blood and looked at me like I wasn't the enemy. I knew then I was in trouble. You should have warned me. Would you have listened? Absolutely not. She rose on her toes, bringing their faces level. I would have told you that you were delusional, that Ashwoods and Ravenclaws could never. He kissed her. It was nothing like the fierce, claiming kisses from romance stories. This was tentative, questioning, giving her every opportunity to pull away. But Kira had never run from a challenge in her life. She kissed him back, pouring 7 days of frustration and fear and grudging respect into the contact. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dominic rested his forehead against hers. That was dangerous, Kira finished. Reckless. Completely inappropriate given the circumstances. Want to do it again? Desperately. They kissed again, deeper this time, and Kira's wolf sang with joy. This was right. This was what the bond had been trying to tell them all along. They weren't just compatible alphas. They were meant to stand together, to lead together, to... A branch cracked nearby. They sprang apart, instincts screaming danger. From the tree line emerged. Sorry, Cole said, not looking sorry at all. Really didn't mean to interrupt. Whatever that was. But we have a problem. What kind of problem? Dominic asked, his alpha persona snapping back into place instantly. The kind where rogues just attacked our northern border. Again. Except this time they were organized. Almost military precision. Cole's expression was grim. And they left a message. Specifically for the two of you. He handed over a piece of paper, smeared with blood. The writing was crude but clear. You took our alpha. We'll take everything you love. See you at the full moon. Kira's blood ran cold. Marcus must have a second in command. Someone still loyal to him. Someone who now has control of the remaining rogues, Dominic added. And 3 days until the full moon to prepare whatever they're planning. We need to accelerate our timeline, Kira decided. Destroy the stone pieces now, before they can be stolen. Then fortify both territories against attack. Agreed. I'll mobilize the warriors. Diana can coordinate with... Dominic paused. With our warriors. Joint defense. The casual way he said "our" made Kira's heart skip. But there was no time for emotions now. They had 3 days to prevent disaster. As they ran back toward the compound, strategies forming, Kira caught Dominic's eye. He smiled, fierce and confident, and mouthed 2 words. Together. Always. Together. Always. No matter what came next, at least they'd face it side by side. Chapter 9. The stone pieces lay on a specially prepared altar, surrounded by salt circles and protective runes drawn by Evan. Destroying them wouldn't be simple. You couldn't just smash something created by the first wolves and powered by ancient magic. It required a ritual, performed by 2 alphas on the full moon. Of course it did. Nothing was ever easy. Are you sure this will work? Kira asked Evan for the 3rd time, studying the ritual instructions. Theoretically, the historian hedged. The texts are pretty clear that joined alpha power can unmake what the first wolves made. But they're also 300 years old and written in metaphor, so... He pushed his glasses up nervously. You'll be fine. Probably. Inspiring confidence, Dominic muttered. He stood beside Kira, their shoulders touching. They'd stopped trying to maintain distance after that kiss. Their wolves demanded proximity now, the bond pulling them together. What's the worst that could happen? The ritual could backfire and destroy you both instead of the stones, Evan said cheerfully. Or you could succeed but release all the stored power at once, which might level everything in a half-mile radius. Or, Evan, Kira interrupted, maybe save the disaster scenarios for after we survive tonight's attack? Right. Sorry. Stress makes me chatty. Outside, both packs prepared for war. Wolves patrolled in mixed units. 3 Ashwood, 3 Ravenclaw, working together with increasing efficiency. Diana had proven a brilliant strategist, coordinating defenses while Cole led the warriors. The old guard still grumbled about working with former enemies, but respect was growing. Nothing unified wolves faster than facing a common threat. How many rogues are we expecting? Marcus called from his cell, silver reinforced to prevent escape. He looked terrible, gaunt and wild-eyed, all his sophisticated alpha veneer stripped away. Why would we tell you? Kira didn't slow her stride past his prison. Because you need my help. Marcus gripped the bars. My second, the one leading the attack, is Garrett. He's been with me from the beginning. I know how he thinks, how he fights. Dominic stopped. And why would you help us now? Because Garrett doesn't just want the stone. He wants revenge. On both our packs for arresting me. He'll burn everything to the ground if he gets the chance. Marcus's eyes met Kira's, and for a moment he looked like the mentor she'd once trusted. I've made terrible choices. Unforgivable ones. But I don't want my pack. Your pack, Kira, destroyed because of my mistakes. Let me help you stop him. It's a trick, Diana said flatly. She'd insisted on joining them, still not entirely trusting the Ravenclaw compound. He's trying to manipulate you again. Maybe, Kira acknowledged. But what if he's telling the truth? What if there are tactics we don't know about? You're too soft, Marcus said, but there was something almost fond in his tone. Always seeing the best in people. Your father was the same way. It's why I could fool you both. Rage flared hot. My father trusted you, loved you like a brother, and you murdered him. I did. Marcus didn't flinch from the accusation. I convinced myself it was for the greater good, that I could do more with the stone's power than he ever would. But watching you lead, seeing what you and Ravenclaw have built, maybe I was wrong. Maybe the stone should have stayed lost. Maybe doesn't bring back the dead, Dominic said coldly. But if you actually want to help, start talking. How will Garrett attack? For the next hour, Marcus detailed Garrett's strategies. How he used rogues as cannon fodder while positioning skilled fighters for maximum impact, his preference for attacking from water sources, his tendency to target civilians to draw out warriors. He'll go for the pups, Marcus finished grimly. Both compounds. He knows the fastest way to break an alpha is through their pack's young. Kira's wolf snarled. Then we move all non-combatants to the central safe house. Triple guard. Anyone who gets through us faces the mothers, and we all know how terrifying they are. Dark smiles around the room. Wolf mothers protecting their pups were the deadliest fighters in any pack. As night fell, the full moon rose huge and silver, casting everything in stark relief. The ritual site sat on neutral ground between compounds, accessible but defensible. Kira and Dominic would perform the ceremony there, protected by warriors from both packs. Ready? Dominic asked, buckling on his ceremonial armor. Alphas traditionally wore silver-trimmed leather for full moon rituals. It showed strength, that they could tolerate silver's burn to prove their conviction. As I'll ever be, Kira secured her own armor, wincing as the silver buckles touched her skin. Though I have to say, destroy magical artifact while fighting off rogue army wasn't on my bingo card for this year. Where's your sense of adventure? But his smile was tense. They both knew the stakes. Fail tonight, and Marcus's vision of conquest would come true, just under different leadership. They walked to the ritual site together, warriors flanking them. The stone pieces hummed with power, responding to the full moon's influence. Kira could feel them pulling at something deep in her chest, the same power that had bonded her to Dominic. Whatever happens, Dominic said quietly, I want you to know, this week with you has been the most real I've felt in years. You see me, all of me, and don't flinch. That's rare. Same, Kira whispered. And after tonight, when this is over, we're going to have a very long conversation about what comes next. For us. Looking forward to it. They took their positions on opposite sides of the altar, hands extended over the stones. The ritual required them to pour their alpha power into the fragments simultaneously, overloading them until the magic collapsed inward and destroyed itself. In theory. On your mark, Evan called, safely outside the salt circle. Remember, you need to maintain perfect synchronization. If one of you pulls back early, we explode. Got it. Dominic met Kira's eyes across the altar. Trust me. With my life. They began. Power flowed from them into the stones, silver light meeting auburn, dark meeting bright. The fragments started to glow, humming, vibrating with released magic. Kira felt the strain immediately. It was like trying to empty an ocean with a bucket. The stones held centuries of power. Keep going, Dominic gritted out. His face was pale with effort. Almost there. The humming rose to a shriek. The stones lifted from the altar, spinning faster and faster, and Kira felt her connection to Dominic strengthen. Through their bond, she could feel his determination, his strength, his absolute refusal to fail. She poured everything she had into the ritual. That's when the rogues attacked. They came from all sides. Garrett had clearly been watching, waiting for the moment when both alphas would be most vulnerable. Warriors engaged them instantly, the sound of combat erupting around the ritual site. Don't stop, Cole shouted, taking down a rogue that got too close. We've got you. But the strain was becoming unbearable. Kira's vision blurred. Blood dripped from her nose. Physical manifestation of the magical toll. Across the altar, Dominic was in similar shape, but his eyes never left hers. Together, she thought desperately. We do this together or not at all. Through their bond, she felt his response, always. They pushed together, one final surge of pure alpha will. The stones screamed, then shattered, exploding outward in a wave of force that flattened everything within 50 feet. The salt circles held just barely, protecting them from the worst of it. Kira collapsed. Strong arms caught her, Dominic, also barely standing, but holding her like she weighed nothing. We did it, he gasped. The stones are destroyed. But the battle wasn't over. Garrett himself emerged from the chaos, shifted into a massive gray wolf, heading straight for the altar. For them. Dominic moved to intercept, but Kira was faster. She shifted mid-leap, her auburn wolf slamming into Garrett with all her remaining strength. They rolled, snapping and clawing, and she felt teeth find her shoulder. Then Dominic was there, his dark wolf form attacking from the other side. Together, they drove Garrett back, away from the ritual site, toward the waiting warriors. Diana and Cole moved in perfect sync, flanking the rogue leader while other fighters cut off escape routes. Garrett realized too late that he was surrounded. He tried to run. Marcus's voice rang out from the compound, amplified by a bullhorn someone had given him. Garrett, stand down. The stones are destroyed. You've lost. The rogue leader hesitated, just for a second. But that second was enough. Cole's silver-laced neck caught him, and he went down snarling. The remaining rogues, seeing their leader captured and the stones destroyed, scattered into the forest. A few were caught, most escaped. But without Garrett's organization or the stone's power, they'd returned to being random threats instead of an army. The battle was over. Kira shifted back to human form, swaying with exhaustion. Dominic caught her again. It was becoming a habit. We won, she said, almost disbelieving. We did. He was grinning, wild and fierce. We actually did it. Around them, warriors from both packs celebrated together, victory erasing old boundaries. Ashwood wolves hugged Ravenclaw wolves. Diana and Cole clasped forearms in the traditional warrior's greeting. Even the old guard looked grudgingly impressed. "So," Dominic said softly just for her, "about that conversation we were going to have." Kira laughed, punchy with adrenaline and relief. "Can it wait until I'm not covered in blood and about to pass out?" "Fair enough." He brushed dirt from her face, the gesture so gentle it made her heart ache. "But soon. Because Kira, after everything we've been through, everything we've survived together, I'm not letting you go. Whatever our packs decide, whatever politics we have to navigate, you and I are inevitable." "Inevitable," she echoed. "I like that word." Yeah. She rose on her toes, kissed him quickly before witnesses could object. "Now help me stay vertical long enough to address our wolves. Then we can both collapse in an undignified heap." "Deal." Hand in hand, bloodied and exhausted but victorious, they faced their packs. Two alphas who'd chosen trust over hatred, unity over division, and love over legacy. The whispers would start tomorrow. The council would have questions. There would be challenges and complications and 1,000 details to work through. But tonight, under the full moon, they'd proven something important. Some bonds were stronger than history. Chapter 10. 3 weeks later, Kira stood at the border between Ashwood and Ravenclaw territories. Except there wasn't really a border anymore. The physical markers remained, but wolves crossed freely now, visiting friends, sharing meals, training together. The trial period was nearly over. Tomorrow, both packs would vote on making the alliance permanent. Nervous, Dominic appeared beside her, moving with that silent grace she'd come to recognize. He handed her coffee, black, no sugar, exactly how she liked it. Terrified, she admitted. What if they vote no? What if we've pushed too hard, too fast? Then we respect their decision and figure out another path forward. But his hand found hers, fingers intertwining. "Though between you and me, I think we've already won." He was probably right. The last 3 weeks had been a whirlwind of cooperation. Joint patrols that actually enjoyed each other's company. Ashwood pups playing with Ravenclaw pups, learning that the stories they'd been told about the enemy were just that, stories. Diana and Cole had become friends, often seen laughing together while they ran training exercises. Even the old guard was softening. Marcus's trial had helped. Seeing him accept full responsibility, hearing him explain how he'd manipulated both packs, watching him plead for them to not let his mistakes poison their future. He'd been sentenced to life imprisonment in the council's facility, but his final words had been a plea for unity. "I destroyed so many lives chasing power I didn't earn," Marcus had said, his voice broken. "Don't repeat my mistakes. Don't let pride or old wounds stop you from building something better." Garrett, his second, had received the same sentence. The remaining rogues had been given a choice: rehabilitation with pack supervision or exile to territory where they couldn't threaten civilized wolves. Most had chosen rehabilitation. The worst threats were neutralized. The Alpha Stone was destroyed. The war was over. So why did Kira still feel on edge? "There's something else," Dominic said, reading her too easily. "What is it?" "The bond," she said quietly. "We've been feeling it, acknowledging it privately, but we haven't told anyone officially. And tomorrow, when they vote, they'll be voting without knowing that their alphas are mates." He said it simply, the word carrying weight. "We're mates, Kira. That's what the bond is. What it's been from the moment we passed the trials together." "I know." She leaned into him, seeking his warmth. "But announcing it before the vote feels like manipulation. Like we're forcing their hand. Vote yes for the alliance or vote against your alpha's happiness. And announcing it after feels like we hid something crucial." Dominic sighed. "There's no perfect answer here. We could announce it today. Give them time to process before tomorrow's vote. Or," a new voice interjected, "you could stop overthinking and just tell us what we already know." They spun to find Diana and Cole standing a respectful distance away, both smirking. "You knew," Kira sputtered. "Everyone knows," Diana said, amused. "You two aren't as subtle as you think. The way you look at each other, the protective instincts, the fact that you can communicate without speaking now. Wolves notice these things. Plus," Cole added, "you smell like each other constantly. Mate bonds have a scent. Anyone with a decent nose figured it out weeks ago." Dominic groaned. "So we've been trying to be discreet while everyone." While everyone watched you make fools of yourselves, yes. Cole's grin was wicked. It's been very entertaining. Kira felt her face heat. Why didn't anyone say anything? Because it's your business, Diana said gently. And because honestly most of the pack is thrilled. You two together makes the alliance permanent in a way politics never could. Your pups will carry both bloodlines. You'll be co-alphas of a united pack, not rivals constantly negotiating territory. We haven't discussed pups, Kira protested weakly. Give it time, Diana said, laughing. But seriously, you should announce it today. Make it official. Let tomorrow's vote be about the pack structure, not about whether we approve of your relationship. After they left, Kira and Dominic stood in silence, processing. Well, Dominic said finally. That's mortifying. Completely. But Kira was smiling. Though I'm relieved we don't have to hide anymore. Sneaking around was exhausting. Says the alpha who insisted we be discreet. I changed my mind. I'm allowed. She turned to face him fully. So, do we do this? Make it official. I want to. His hand cupped her cheek. I want everyone to know that you're mine and I'm yours. That we're building something together. But only if you're ready. There's no rush. Dominic, I've known you for a month and I'm more certain of you than I've been of anything in my life. She rose to kiss him, slow and sweet. Let's tell them. Today. Together. Together. I like that word. You should. You're stuck with it. They called a combined pack meeting that afternoon. Every wolf gathered in the clearing, curious and expectant. News had clearly spread. Kira saw knowing smiles, excited whispers, some eye rolls from wolves who'd clearly been waiting for this announcement. Thank you all for coming, Dominic began. We know tomorrow is the official vote, but there's something we wanted to address first. We've been feeling the mate bond since the trials in the Whispering Caves, Kira continued. And we've been dancing around it, trying to be professional, trying not to influence the alliance vote. But that was stupid. Incredibly stupid, Dominic agreed. Because the truth is Kira and I are mates. Chosen by fate, confirmed by the trials, and accepted by us both. We're bonded, and that bond is permanent. This doesn't change tomorrow's vote, Kira added quickly. You should vote based on what's best for you, for your families, for your futures. Not based on your alpha's romantic entanglements. But we wanted you to have all the information. If you vote yes for the alliance, Dominic said, Kira and I will lead together as co-alphas. Equal power, equal authority. Our pups, if we have them, will belong to both packs, both bloodlines. We'll be one pack, united under joint leadership. If you vote no, Kira continued, we'll maintain separate packs but allied. We'll figure out how to make the mate bond work across territorial lines. It won't be easy, but we'll manage. Either way, they said together, we're committed to making this work. For you, for us, for the future we're building. Silence. Then, from the back, an elderly Ashwood wolf stood. About time you admitted it, she said tartly. My granddaughter placed bets 3 weeks ago. She'll be thrilled. Laughter rippled through the crowd. The tension broke, and wolves started calling out questions. Practical things about leadership structure, territory management, succession plans. Diana and Cole fielded most of them, having clearly prepared for this moment. As the meeting wound down, Cole approached them. For what it's worth, he said, you have my vote. Both of you. I lost my grandfather to old feuds and stupid pride. I don't want to lose my brother to the same thing. He glanced at Kira. And you've earned my respect, Alpha Ashwood. You're good for him. You make him better. He makes me better too, Kira said honestly. Thank you, Cole. That means a lot. That night, they retreated to Dominic's quarters, which had unofficially become their quarters over the past weeks. Kira collapsed on the bed, emotionally exhausted. Tomorrow, she said. Tomorrow everything changes. Tomorrow everything becomes official, Dominic corrected, joining her. But it changed the night we met, when we looked at each other across a battlefield and felt that pull. We just spent 3 weeks catching up to what our wolves already knew. That we're mates. That we're mates, he confirmed. That we're stronger together. That this, he gestured between them, was always going to happen. Kira rolled to face him. I love you, you know. I don't think I've said it out loud yet. But I do. I love your strength and your honor, and the way you challenge me. I love that you see me as an equal, not a rival or a subordinate. I love. He kissed her, cutting off the words. I love you too. So much it terrifies me sometimes. You've turned my entire world upside down, and I wouldn't change a single moment. They stayed like that, wrapped around each other, talking softly until sleep claimed them. Tomorrow would bring votes and decisions and new challenges. But tonight, they were just Kira and Dominic. Two wolves who'd found each other against all odds and refused to let anything tear them apart. Chapter 11. The votes were counted by Elder Moira herself, the council having sent representatives to witness this unprecedented decision. Wolves gathered in the clearing, Ashwood and Ravenclaw mixed together, waiting. Kira's hand found Dominic's. His grip was tight, betraying nerves he'd never admit to. Wolves of Ashwood and Ravenclaw, Elder Moira began, her voice carrying across the crowd. You have spent 1 month living and fighting together. You have seen the strength of unity and the cost of division. Today, you choose your future. She held up 2 urns, one for yes votes, one for no. The count had been anonymous, giving every wolf the freedom to vote their conscience without pressure. The final tally, Elder Moira said, and Kira held her breath. For maintaining separate packs with loose alliance, 7 votes. For creating a unified pack under joint alpha leadership, 86 votes. The clearing erupted. Wolves howled in celebration, the sound echoing through the forest. 86-7. It wasn't even close. It's official, Elder Marcus declared, smiling. By the will of both packs, Ashwood and Ravenclaw are dissolved. In their place rises the Silvermoon Pack, united, strong, and led by Alphas Kira Ashwood and Dominic Ravenclaw. Silvermoon. The name had been suggested by one of the pups, a perfect blend of both their legacies. Silver for Ravenclaw's moonlight eyes, moon for Ashwood's forest territories. The council had approved it immediately. Kira felt tears prick her eyes. They'd done it. Actually done it. Dominic pulled her into his arms, lifting her off the ground as he spun her. We won. The alliance stands. We won, she echoed, laughing and crying at once. Dominic, we actually won. Around them, wolves celebrated. Diana and Cole were dancing, badly but enthusiastically. The elders looked pleased. Even the 7 wolves who'd voted no seemed accepting, caught up in the moment. As your first act as co-alphas, Elder Moira said once the noise died down, you should address your pack, the Silvermoon Pack. Kira and Dominic moved to the center of the clearing together, still hand in hand. Thank you, Kira said simply, for trusting us, for being brave enough to set aside old wounds and build something new. We know this wasn't easy. Some of you lost family to the feud. Some of you have scars, physical and emotional, that will never fully heal. But you chose hope over hatred. You chose us. We promise to honor that choice, Dominic continued. To lead with integrity, to protect every member of this pack, and to make sure the mistakes of the past stay in the past. We're not perfect. We'll make mistakes. But we'll always put this pack first. Together, they said as one, we'll build something our descendants will be proud of. A pack where strength comes from unity, not conquest. Where different perspectives make us stronger, not weaker. Where love, Kira squeezed Dominic's hand. Where love triumphs over legacy. The howls that followed were deafening, joyful, filled with hope for the future. That night, they held a proper bonding ceremony. The traditional mate ritual that would formally link them in the eyes of the pack and the gods. It took place under the full moon, with every pack member as witness. Kira wore silver and white, colors of the full moon. Dominic wore black and crimson, colors of the night forest. They stood together as the elder painted ancient symbols on their skin, marks that would bind them magically, permanently. Kira Ashwood, Elder Moira said, do you accept Dominic Ravenclaw as your mate? To stand beside in strength, to support in weakness, to trust with your life and your pack. I do, Kira said clearly, her voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm her. I accept him freely, fully, and forever. Dominic Ravenclaw, do you accept Kira Ashwood as your mate? To honor her choices, to share her burdens, to build a future together. I do, Dominic said, his silver eyes locked on hers. I accept her freely, fully, and forever. The elder bound their hands with silver cord, speaking words in the old language. Words of binding, of power, of unity. Magic flared between them. The mate bond settling into place with a finality that was both terrifying and perfect. By the authority of the council and the will of the pack, I declare you bonded mates, Elder Moira proclaimed. 2 alphas, 1 bond, 1 pack. May your love be eternal and your leadership wise. Dominic kissed her then, and Kira felt the bond snap into place fully. a connection deeper than thought, more permanent than pack loyalty. She could feel his emotions now, his wild joy and fierce love, his absolute certainty that this was right. And he could feel hers. The wonder that she'd found someone who truly saw her, who challenged and supported her equally, who made her believe in fairy tale endings. When they broke apart, the pack howled approval. Diana was crying openly. Cole looked happy for the first time since his grandfather's death. Even the old guard seemed moved by the ceremony. The celebration lasted until dawn. Feasting, storytelling, wolves from both former packs sharing memories and making new ones. Kira danced with Dominic, with Diana, with Cole, with pups who wanted to congratulate their new alphas. It was perfect. As the sun rose, painting the sky gold and pink, Kira and Dominic finally escaped to their private quarters. They collapsed on the bed, exhausted but content. "We did it," Kira murmured, curling into his side. "We actually pulled off the impossible." "We did," Dominic agreed, his arm tightening around her. "United the packs, destroyed the stone, found each other. Not bad for a month's work. What do we do now? Now we lead. We build. We prove every single wolf who doubted us wrong." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "And we live, Kira. We get to just live, without constantly looking over our shoulders for threats." Sounds boring. Sounds perfect. They lay in comfortable silence, watching the sunrise through the window. Outside their pack, the Silvermoon pack, was settling into this new reality. Former enemies becoming family. Old wounds beginning to heal. "I love you," Kira said softly. "In case I haven't mentioned it enough. You've mentioned it approximately 47 times since the ceremony." Dominic smiled against her hair. "But I'm happy to hear it 48. I love you. I love you too. More than I ever thought possible." He tilted her face up to his. "You changed everything for me, you know. Made me believe in second chances and new beginnings. Made me want to be better than my grandfather's legacy. You made me believe I didn't have to carry everything alone. That strength could come from partnership, not just individual power." She kissed him softly. "We're good together. We're inevitable," he corrected. "We were always going to end up here. Just took us a while to figure it out. Worth the wait." "Absolutely." As they drifted to sleep, wrapped around each other, the Silvermoon pack began its first day. Pups played in the courtyard, no longer segregated by old pack lines. Warriors trained together, sharing techniques. Elders told stories that honored both Ashwood and Ravenclaw histories, weaving them into a single narrative. The feud was over. The alliance stood. And two alphas who'd started as enemies had become something far more powerful. Partners, mates, and proof that some love stories were strong enough to rewrite history. 1 year later, Kira stood on the ridge overlooking Silvermoon pack territory, watching the sun set over lands that had been divided for generations and were now unified. A year had passed since the vote, and the transformation was remarkable. Where the old border had been, they'd built a memorial garden, stones carved with the names of every wolf lost to the feud from both sides. It was tended by volunteers from across the pack, a reminder of the price of hatred and the value of peace. Strong arms wrapped around her from behind, and she smiled, leaning back into Dominic's warmth. "The council representatives left," he said. "Evan gave them the full report on our governance structure. They seemed impressed." "And by impressed you mean?" "They're suggesting other packs adopt our dual alpha model. Apparently, having balanced leadership prevents the power trips that lead to wolves like Marcus." His hand splayed across her stomach, protective and possessive. "They also asked when we'd be expanding the leadership team." Kira covered his hand with hers, feeling the small swell beneath. 3 months along, barely showing, but undeniably real. "We're telling the pack next week," she said. "I wanted to wait until we were past the risky first trimester." "They already know," Dominic said, amused. "Diana figured it out when you couldn't stomach rare meat anymore. The whole pack's been taking bets on whether it'll be a boy or girl." "Of course they have." But Kira was smiling. This was their pack, nosy, loyal, impossibly loving. "What do you think?" "Honestly, I don't care as long as they're healthy and inherit your stubbornness." He kissed her neck. "Though if they get my arrogance and your temper, we're in trouble. We're in so much trouble." They stood together, watching their pack move through the evening routines. Warriors changing shifts, pups being called in for dinner, elders settling by the bonfire to share stories. Ashwood and Ravenclaw, completely blended now. The Silvermoon pack. "Do you ever miss it?" Dominic asked quietly. The simplicity of having clear enemies? Knowing exactly who you were supposed to fight. Not even once, Kira said honestly. This, she gestured to the pack below. This is better than anything I could have imagined. We're stronger together. Happier. More complete. Even when Diana and Cole argue about training protocols? Even then. She laughed, thinking of her second and Dominic's brother, who developed a contentious but effective working relationship. They'll figure it out. They have to. We're promoting them to betas officially next month. Joint betas for joint alphas. I like the symmetry. Marcus had been right about one thing. The mate bond between rival alphas had created unprecedented power. But unlike him, Kira and Dominic used that power to protect, not conquer. To build, not destroy. The Alpha Stone was gone. The rogues had dispersed. The feud was history. What remained was hope. Come on, Dominic said, tugging her hand. Dinner's ready, and I promised Cole we'd eat with him tonight. He wants to discuss the training schedule for next quarter. You mean he wants to complain that Diana's schedule is too aggressive? Probably. Should be entertaining. They walked back to the compound together, Kira's hand in Dominic's, their wolves content and their bond humming with satisfaction. A year ago they'd been enemies. Now they were everything, mates, partners, co-leaders, and soon-to-be parents. The Silver Moon Pack had become more than the sum of its parts. It was proof that change was possible, that forgiveness could triumph over revenge, that love, the real, messy, complicated kind, could heal even the deepest wounds. And as for Kira and Dominic, they'd found something rare and precious, a love born from conflict, tempered by challenge and strengthened by choice. They'd been enemies first, then reluctant allies, then friends, and finally mates. But most importantly,